Here we are, and welcome to another episode of the Friday Night Movie Podcast. Today, we will be talking about a movie that left us with infinite questions, a movie called Infinite. But before that, we need to report in on something that happened yesterday. We are still in the Poconos on vacation recording here, and we did a family photo shoot for like family pictures yesterday. And I was wondering if Lily and Becky, you could start off by describing a little bit of the scene, or maybe some of your favorite moments from yesterday.
I feel like it was like being at the Corman Zoo. Like, it was wild.
That's such
you
an
literally
accurate
have
description.
my children stripping down naked and running into the
Every
lake.
time they finished every time.
My husband was the worst of it. He literally took one picture and is changing into his bathing suit.
Every time they finished like taking one set of pictures,
He's like, Miri told me we're done.
your husband and kids dropped their pants and ran into the water.
Then you have that going on by the lake. Then you have Mom and Lily just screaming at each other.
And Dad being like, not in front of the photographer. We're like, when did that stop you before?
And then you have like Shai's family obviously being perfect. Like smiling, posing for gorgeous photos, like giving hugs, just being like, oh, like this is like the favorite child.
Look, I think there were some highs, there were some lows. That was probably the first argument I've seen all week, was you and Mom in front of the photographer, but he was a nice guy.
He was really intense.
He was a super nice guy.
But I will say, I think this opens us up for a really great opportunity to potentially start a Patreon, because I think if people want to see the behind the scenes video of the three of us climbing into a hammock to take sibling pictures, they need to pay for it.
That's
not something I'm giving away for free.
And the photo/video. I bet there's a video.
Yeah,
of all of us jiggling our tatas and our keys to get the kids to look at us. And it looks like we're doing aerobics on the Lido deck. That is an incredible photo.
So we did do a Friday Night Movie. A subset was a little bit of a Friday Night Movie photo shoot.
Do you think that's why Dad wasn't too excited for this to be his birthday present? He knew it was like secretly just something for the pod.
Right? He was like, oh, I just.
It was the guy was really nice, because Shai was like, "Can we do some extra photos just for like our podcast and stuff?" And he was like, "You got me. Nice. I'll do what you need."
Joe from Peel the Moon Photography. If you're listening, you're awesome. We highly recommend you. We were
the tri-state area.
For the tri-state area, exactly. But there was this moment where the three of us were decided to do our own little sub photo shoot together, and we climbed onto a hammock. There was a hammock.
It was Mom's suggestion. There's a picture of the three of us as like really little kids, like
laying down together,
like 6, 8, and 11 or something years old.
Yeah, and we are sitting on this hammock, which
first
is
we tried
too big for three children.
We tried to sit on it.
Right.
First we tried to sit, and he just goes, like, we tried to just sit on it like as if it was a chair. And then Joe goes, I don't think the picture works if it's just all hammock behind you. It's like a wall of hammock, and you guys are just sitting on the edge because you don't fit. And then I was like, let's lie down.
So then we decided to lie down, and we lied down like zipper formation. So it was Lily head to toe, Lily feet, then Shai head, then feet, then Becky, then Shai head, then feet. Then Becky head, then feet. And then at one point we were asked to like crouch up, all of us like lean in. So it was a very small hammock, and then we did this like crunch.
Becky goes, "Am I supposed to be doing sit-ups? You want me to do a crunch on this hammock with two other people?"
And then as we are.
It's amazing, that thing. That says a lot about those like maple trees or whatever is out there. It's amazing.
Very strong.
We did not pull the 2 trees down.
Very strong hammock. And it was amazing to me. We crouched up. We're now in full crunch position. We're looking at each other. And Becky asks, what story does this photograph tell about us? That we just hang out in hammocks all day?
just like
a regular
in a hammock.
Friday afternoon, 3 sibs cuddling in a hammock.
Combined 180 18 years of age in one
I thought you were going to be
spot.
like combined 100 and I was like, you raise that number if you're talking weight, buddy.
No, whatever the weird. What's that weird metric stuff you do? I'm
Kilos?
Were we like 1 stone, all of us?
Oh, I don't know what that I don't know how they do it in England. That's really funny.
So we will keep people posted.
But also, I want to say that, you remember you go over to like a friend's house as a kid, or some of our family members would do this, and you would see like on the in their living room on the stairs going up, they'd have like the family photos of everyone in like jeans and white t-shirts, like the studio photos. Like our family never did that. We never did anything remotely like that ever.
You got
Never.
one of your bar mitzvah,
and that's it. That was the only family.
And then maybe Mindy and Shelley's bat mitzvah, mom would like force
them.
Photo.
Right. So we never did these kinds of family photo shoots. So this is a new thing for us.
Let me posit why. Because we were so terrible and ungrateful that if mom had made us do a photo shoot,
made her cry.
We would have
dad
burned the place.
Yeah.
We were so terrible. Like even yesterday's, we made it as, I would say, easy as possible. We had the photographer come to where we were staying.
Everybody could wear whatever they wanted.
Everyone could wear whatever they wanted with like a general theme of you should be dressed pretty nice. And still by the end, Lily and Becky, like their response to me was,
we were like, I need to be done.
This is your fault.
Yeah. And he's like, let's try one more. And Becky and I were like, let's try nothing.
Or I think he said
done.
to me, why don't we do one where you wear the hat? And I was like, fuck you. You wear the hat, man. I'm not wearing it. No.
But that's pretty
kidding.
close. That's
Sorry,
pretty
Joe.
close.
It wasn't. Joe, you did a great job. You're infinitely patient and
Yes.
kind.
And
But it's funny because now this is actually the second time we've done a family portrait thing as like an activity. But this is not something we ever did as kids.
No, and I think it's a testament. It's really just because we don't have, it's rare that all of us are together.
or that we have
And
a present lined up for
well,
mom
this is
and
the
dad.
first time.
This is our new credit for a massage.
Yeah.
Here's another bathrobe.
But it's
Coupon
also
for
like-
hugs. We're just gonna have photographers in every city. Poor Joe is gonna be just gonna get.
Hey, get a lot of business this way.
Yeah, just drive him. He'll just drive up every time we read.
But it's really like also because if we're all together, like there's no way to take a picture all of us together, and we could set up a timer and all that. But
yeah,
it's gonna
there's
be-
now
have-
14 of us.
yeah,
Yeah.
there are 14 of us, and it's been 2.5 years or
Since
2.5
we've all been
plus years since
together.
we've all been together. So
Now, one thing we also talked about while we were doing the pictures was the first family photo shoot that all of us remember really well, which is my bar mitzvah photo shoot. How did you feel about this photo shoot not having a plot? Because my bar mitzvah photo shoot,
It had a
Yours
plot.
had a plot.
I
Yeah.
don't feel like it had much of an arc or a 3-act structure, but there was a 3-act structure.
There
wasn't a great character
run,
arc,
throw
That-
the stone in the pond,
though. And then he found
and
me
then
behind
I take
the
all
tree.
your money and never give you the video. Because that's what happened.
He found me. So the story goes, Shai is in a wooded park.
This is the video, right?
The
and they
video.
were taking pictures too. They
And
did
I
he's
just
jogging
don't know why
along
you
the
needed a
path.
video to go along with the photos.
He's jogging along the path. He stops to gaze at a pond, skips some rocks, continues on his merry way, and peekaboo, out jumps his little sister from behind a tree
wearing purple overalls.
wearing purple overalls. And what else happened? I think you
then-
you found
and then
each
I
of the
run,
family. You
and the
keep
best
running.
is-
You
the
keep
best
running.
Of this video, if we can find some of this video, also maybe
Oh
for
my god,
Patreon,
it's got to be. We
is
have it
with the photographer yelling at me, "Run, bar mitzvah boy, run, run!" and me just like awkwardly galloping, exactly, awkwardly galloping across the.
But like, what was it supposed to be? I don't know.
All
It was great.
It was infinitely funny, and now we're going to talk about the movie Infinite. The movie Infinite stars Marky Mark, which I think. Can we talk a little bit about the fact that we still call him Marky Mark? Like, do you think
I call him Mark Wahlberg.
He,
Do you think people remember?
of course they do, and I think like I would hope he embraces it. Like I don't know him personally.
Like you're wondering if you're on set and someone goes,
Like,
"Hey, Marky Mark,"
or,
if
you
he's
run
like,
into him,
I
he'd
feel
be
if he
like-
smiles, or if there's like a rule on set where you're not allowed to call him that. Maybe.
I
Who
feel
knows?
I want
like
to
you
believe
should
that he
not.
leans into it. Because come on,
I feel like you should be really
vibration.
careful calling Mark Wahlberg.
I call him
I don't
Mark
think he's ever
Wahlberg.
even done like James,
joke thing
James,
about it?
what's his name? James
Corden.
Corden, or a Jimmy Fallon
You know, I
thing
get
where
the
he
feeling
does
he
good
does
vibrations.
take himself too seriously. Maybe he wakes up at 3 a.m. to work out. I don't think he could be friends with me. Forget it.
Well,
So it stars Marky Mark,
On the other
Chiwetel
hand,
Ejiofor.
Donnie Wahlberg seems like he's ready to hang.
Yeah. He's awesome. He was on Blue Bloods with our dear friend Jenny Ann Hochberg, who was on the finale of Blue Bloods this year, and I believe they got to do a scene together.
she can probably find out for us.
Yeah,
All right.
I bet he was wonderful. So you got Marky Mark, you got Chiwetel Ejiofor, you have someone named Sophie Cookson that I've never heard of before, but then most important, the reason why we signed up for this movie,
The Hook. How you got us all to agree to sit down to watch it.
was none other than Jason Mantzoukas, who we adore. We did a whole episode of this podcast, a crossover with Leah Jones of the Finding Favorites podcast, where we just talked about Jason Mantzoukas, who is truly one of the great talents. But what made this extra special and extra meta is that I would say one of our biggest podcast influences is How Did This Get Made, or
Yeah,
like
for
hero
sure.
podcasts
For sure,
that
hero.
we look up to. And he is one of the hosts of How Did This Get Made, where they routinely watch terrible movies and make fun of them in the most brilliant, loving, amazing way. Like, I think the movies they make fun of get a whole new life because people just like I've watched so many movies just because of that, so I could be ready for the episode. And this movie, Infinite, starring Jason Mantzoukas, is as bad or worse than any single How Did This Get Made
It's
movie
true.
that I have seen.
It's true.
And it contains so many of the things that are wrong with it. I'm not sure that are wrong with those movies. Now, I enjoyed this movie quite a lot. Like, I had a lot of fun during
Me
it.
too.
But there are so it's weird. I recommend seeing Infinite. I recommend as a streaming, if you have Paramount Plus, like if you've gone that deep into subscribing to services, right? Because like think about it this way, Paramount Plus came out after HBO, after Peacock, right? At that point, are people really?
It's different than Peacock?
Yeah, it's different than Peacock, right? Like you're very deep into streaming at this point. So if you signed up for Paramount Plus,
Watch it.
I feel like this is a pretty good streamy movie. But it is also like I remember we were talking with Dad afterwards about how this movie reminded us of the movies that were made by Canon Films, like Golan and Globus, and I was listing the movies from Canon Films: American Ninja, Delta Force, Break-In 2, and Dad was like, "Hold on a second, those movies were awesome. Those movies were way better than this movie."
Oh. No, this is definitely in that vein. I mean, it was the type of movie where. I mean, I think for me, like the scene that perfectly describes it is when Mark Wahlberg is in the airplane hangar with the female lead, Leona, but she has a different name, whatever her name is, Nora,
Birmingham.
Leona, whatever her name, with the female, and she's trying to explain to him that he should be able to remember all of his past lives. That he has this ability, he reincarnates and should have this ability to remember all of his past lives. And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about, blah, blah, none of this is true. And then she's like, if you come on this plane with me, you'll find the answer to all the secrets. And he just goes, okay, I got nothing else to do. And it's just like, there's no work involved. It's just, Vlad, you know what I mean?
I feel like Vlad really watching a movie with him is really fun because he picks up just on like certain like style choices or movement choices that you go along with because you're watching. But when they're having this conversation, he's walking away from her across this massive airplane hangar, and Vlad's just like, is he going to the bathroom? Like, why?
Where is he going? He's just arrived in this airplane hangar.
He has no idea
where he is. He doesn't know where he is.
He's just talking to her as he's walking across it, like he's walking ahead of her, and then she's like, I can solve all your problems, and he's like, fine, I'll just go with you.
Right, like there's no work involved in convincing him.
Okay.
He's just like, I have nothing else to do.
I think that we need to do the audience a service, and we need to tell them what this movie's about.
Oh,
but what was great about this movie is that
it's so many other
movies glued into it that, in fact, I read that it was pitched as, I'll tell you afterwards what I read that it was pitched as, but it's such a combination of other movies that the challenge here, what should we call this game? We welcome idea for this game, but it is tell the plot of this movie using only details from other movies.
Yeah, using only descriptors from other movies.
So like should I start?
Best adapted description.
Best adapted description. I like that. Okay, best adapted description. B-A-D. Bad.
Ooh, the bad.
Bad. All right, we're gonna do. Yeah, that's great. Bad. Best adapted description. So I'm gonna describe this movie as Neo meets up with Trinity and Gwildor in an attempt.
Gwildor?
Gwildor. He's the little gnome from Masters of the Universe, the movie from the 80s, which has an amazing How Did This Get Made episode. I mean, that's one of the best ones ever. So he's like a little like gnome that is like that's the Toby Jones character. He just, to me, he was Gwildor. Mm-hmm. So Neo meets up with Trinity and Gwildor in an attempt to free all of the ghosts from the ecto containment unit.
From Ghostbusters.
Yeah, like the Ghostbusters at the end. So that's to me, if I were to summarize what happens in this movie, that is what goes on in this movie.
Okay.
Becky, how about you?
I would describe it as Live, Die, Repeat from Edge of Tomorrow. So Live, Die, Repeat, unless you end up as an upload, and I'm referencing the TV show Upload. Unless you end up as an upload until you stop Thanos from snapping the world into a blip.
Got it. Now, I admittedly slept through the middle of the movie, so it's like a movie where I saw, read the opening chapter and the last chapter. I don't feel like I missed much, but
they literally, like, Shai, like, if you missed that part, they literally are, like, giving you an example of what it might look like should the bad guy get his wish of, like, doing his snap. And it's people, like, literally fading away like ashes, like in Endgame or whatever, Infinity War, in the Marvel movie. It's literally
but, like, I would say scene. That's part of it. There's more references I could give, like, but that I could give. So I'm just that's my single. But there were more that I cut this down to just those three.
And my element was that part of what these reincarnated people are trying to do is free these souls that have been like captured in a giant grid
on memory sticks. I.e. upload. Like their souls are now on memory sticks in a safety deposit box. I don't know.
Right.
Okay, we don't even talk about the cryo prison, which
which is like every other movie.
No, but like specifically from Demolition Man. That's what I'm saying.
That movie holds up even better than when it was.
That's what I'm thinking. And then unless you end up as an upload with your body in a cryo prison.
By the way, Demolition Man, another episode of How Did This Get Made?
Yeah, that's
absolutely
one of the best
amazing, and that's where they do such a good job with a great movie.
Right. Well, yours.
Okay. So mine is Old Guard, which was super, also on like a Netflix made for whatever. Yeah. But instead of being immortal, you come back like in the Pixar movie Soul.
That's great. That's great.
Except you're not a cat. You're a young teenager, and you've got to find your long lost love, like in The Notebook.
Oh, that's great.
But instead of meeting up at like an old, like beautiful restored lake house, it's Angkor Wat in Cambodia.
Yeah, there was a lot of... We had earlier in that day, out of the blue, Becky was talking about visiting Cambodia and talked about Angkor Wat. And then this movie had the most Angkor Wat of any movie, the most references to Angkor Wat of any movie I've ever seen. Those are all amazing descriptions, and that is Best Adapted Description, a new Friday night movie game premiering right now as we were watching it. With it now, another fascinating thing about this movie is that the director of this movie, right, is a legitimate director, has directed one of my favorite movies ever.
Which makes me really, really worried for the producing filmmaking process today, because there's no way under God's green earth, the creator of Training Day.
Antoine Fuqua.
I thought you mentioned him. He's a phenomenal director who...
Training Day, The Equalizer, The Magnificent Seven remake, which is super underrated, Brooklyn's Finest, and one of Becky's recent 90s movies that you rewatched, The Replacement Killers.
That's right.
So there's no way, and I think Becky can foremost agree, that he would have signed off on all that narration.
It makes you wonder, is it that like directors are really bad and studios are really great, which is why those other movies came out well, or are directors really good and studios are really bad, which is why this came out so bad.
I think
like,
so. I think that
because somebody had to have been keeping those other movies on the rails. I mean, it must be him. He must be good.
Because like the budget got cut last minute, and like maybe he had all these things he wanted to shoot or ways of doing that exposition.
Like I just want to talk about. I want to talk about the opening of the film.
Just tell
I want to
talk
not the first opening scene, but the second.
The opening action scene is fantastic.
Phenomenal. It's absolutely phenomenal.
I was like, whoa.
Right.
I just feel like this was like a
very
money
impressive.
issue.
Very impressive. Then you get to the next scene where you're meeting Mark Wahlberg, and everyone is yelling at me because I'm complaining and talking over the narration. Where you can just read what the movie is about because he's narrating. They have the subtitles up. He's just narrating and explaining everything.
We're watching a movie in a house with like 6 sleeping children,
and
so the volume is
and one foreigner.
Yeah, and so the volume is on 1.
I'm like, I'm not interrupting anything. You can just read what this movie is about because he's literally just explains.
But then, as Vlad pointed out later in the movie. Often by Jason Mantzoukas' character. By the way, Jason Mantzoukas, totally awesome in this movie.
So great.
He's so great.
He's so great.
I mean, we sort of buried the lead. He was fantastic. I want to see the sequel.
Just the heads up, though. He's only halfway.
I know.
Shows up halfway
Lily
through.
was really tired, and she kept being like, I'm just trying to stay awake for Mantzoukas.
I didn't realize I should have slept through the first half and watched the second half with him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, but when he comes in, he does a lot of that, as we call it, Basil exposition, based on the Austin Powers character. So, to me, it seems like Fuqua makes this movie. Now, Wahlberg is added to it later. Apparently, it was supposed to be Chris Evans. Fuqua makes this movie.
I think it's fine that it's Mark Wahlberg.
I like Marky Mark.
It works except for the fact that
it's weird that he's much older than all the other characters that in every other scene
are the same age. And then they all die on the same day. Right, they all die on the same day, so they would have been conceivably reincarnated like on the same day and
like at the
continue
beginning
to be
of the movie,
same
they're
age.
the exact same age.
And all of the iterations of their lives.
Right, and then Wahlberg is much older than them.
It's like 25 years
and
older.
And then at the end, they're all teenagers.
Does her boyfriend come back at the end?
Yeah, they meet at Anchor Wine. That's my notebook reference.
That part was
I didn't make it to the last 15
There's a lot of good elements. So
they like hook up at Anchor Wine as teenagers.
The moment that voiceover starts, it feels like a cheap movie, right? You feel like this is a question I have about streaming movies, which is that I feel like if I had paid to see this in the theater and you took out the voiceover, I would be like, oh, it's a solid Friday night movie. But there's something about like the way Paramount Plus presented this movie that made it feel cheap, particularly with that voiceover, because you're watching it and you're like, oh, wow. Well, I was at first hopeful that they were going to be skipping a lot of stuff. Like, okay, I'm going to be voiceover. I can live with that if I don't have to then have it re-explained over and over and over again in the movie. But they re-explained it over and over and over again. So it was, oof. It was really lit. But that opening action scene, which is a car chase with unknown actors,
right?
Was rad.
So good.
And then there's a later car chase scene through the police station. That's not bad. When they drive the tank,
a lot of indoor car chases, as Lily pointed out.
And I think there's a great part of Marky Mark's character is that he is one of his previous lives was an old sword maker. That's like how
I do need
and the sword is pretty awesome.
Beside the wonderful Chiwetel Ejiofor, who's he's amazing in everything he does. I'm amazed they got him for this movie. It is noticeable that all other iterations of these people are people of color, and then all future iterations, but not the ones in the actual movie. They're all white.
That's actually really,
that is odd.
You know what I mean? Like he's a samurai. They show him as like a Native American or like maybe an Andean warrior or something.
And then at the end of the movie, he's reincarnated as an Indonesian kid.
Right, exactly. Like all these ethnic people.
But just not for
the actual movie. They're all white.
But maybe there will be, as Shai is hopeful.
Oh, well, I will say the movie I want to see. If you're talking about if this was a prequel, right? Let's say this was just a setup.
Right, but I'll see Mantzoukas as M or whatever from Bond.
Right, exactly. The last scene of this movie, spoiler alert, is the reincarnated Marky Mark is this Indonesian kid, and he's crushing these guys with martial arts and it was fantastic. And then the artisan, which is the guy played by Jason Mantzoukas, shows up, and he's indicated he's older by they like gray his beard a bit and give him a ponytail. So like you're supposed to think this is later, and he passes the kid the sword and says like super cheesy line like, "Here, have this sword," and the kid's like, "But you forgot your sword," and he said, "That's not my sword, it's your sword." And then
Call me in the future.
and then the kid also speaks fluent English in that moment, even though everyone else in there is speaking another language, and he's like, "Artisan, thanks for catching up," or whatever he said. And then I'm like, whoa, I want to watch the movie where Artisan is like the mentor to this younger Infinite in Indonesia, like fighting his way across the world with those like incredible martial arts scenes.
Right.
Like that would have been so cool. And the star-crossed lovers and Angkor Wat that reunite,
Right.
that would have been so cool. Instead, I
These,
got
like teenage, fighting machines or whatever. I think,
yeah.
yeah, I think they, I don't know. I feel like people. Mark Wahlberg obviously is a box office draw. Was the highest paid actor in 2017, which still is amazing to just comprehend. But
Big star.
he's a huge star.
Transformer
So you're not going to get like a
movies.
bunch of Indonesian teenagers leading your movie. However, I think it is nice and refreshing to see people, doing martial arts and doing these action movies of other ethnicities than just like hunky Mark Wahlberg.
Right.
Or Chris Hemsworth, or even Chris Evans.
Right,
Like,
and I
it would
believe
be nice to see somebody
Marky
else.
Mark probably knows a certain amount of stage fighting, but the kid that they showed in that scene was
Right.
like amazing.
Wow, you guys made such a big deal. Don't worry if you missed the last 15 minutes because you fell asleep. But now I need to go back and watch it.
No, Lily told you
If
not
I
to watch it.
recommend anybody
Just
to
the last
watch,
15
I think
minutes?
The last 15
The
minutes.
opening scene and the end and the closing scene.
It's like Shai
There we
when he
go.
wrote a book report.
Yeah. The opening scene, and then from the final fight on, you don't really need much else. Like when they have Jason Mantzoukas, by the way, driving a helicopter like he's in Mission Impossible,
Right.
They've seen that scene, and he drops the dune buggy with Mark Wahlberg
Yeah, it's
driving
great.
across some estate. Who the hell knows what's happening? But you get the main gist.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
great.
I think that overall this has to be, I think, my favorite streaming action movie.
For
Yeah,
sure.
agreed.
For
they
sure.
all
I
such
liked it
piles
way
of poo.
better than like
So
Old
these-
Guard or some
Yeah.
other ones we've watched. 100%. Yeah.
The Hemsworth one was unbelievably bad.
Oh, excretion.
Extraction.
Whatever.
It was so bad.
I will
So
say that
this
the
was-
name of this movie, which was like
it's
the final word of the film too, is like, and the possibilities are
infinite.
Or
Shai's
something.
sitting there on the couch, half asleep, like infinite. It's gonna be infinite.
So, all right, let's talk MVPs. MVP for me, of course, is Mantzoukas.
Mantzoukas.
Your LVP?
That blonde that doesn't speak with the short hair.
Yeah.
What is she doing? Why do they always need to
don't-
have like a
Like
Charlize Theron lookalike in a movie? That's not
As
nearly
like
as
the
good.
evil henchman. Like
Right.
that's like a
This
new thing to have like the sexy evil
in
henchman.
Beverly Hills Cop, you had what's her name? Shai, you know her. Beverly Hills Cop.
Brigitte Nielsen.
Brigitte
Oh, you're
Nielsen.
saying certainly
Right.
Brigitte.
Since the 80s, that's been a thing. The tall, short, blonde-haired, like evil
Very scary
henchman.
Scandinavian woman.
Right. But like her fight scene made no sense. It's like so dumb. So she's my LVP because I just like that was a waste of a character. And that whole role made no sense. Shai.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think I'm just going to go with you on that one. All right, about MIP, was there anyone who from the beginning through the film or just that you hadn't seen before that you're like, wow?
I'll say that the like lead girl, Leona, was really weak at the beginning. And I'm sad. I might have to blame the director because that actress is from Kingsman. I thought she was great in Kingsman. So unless she got bad at acting or the script, she just had a tough time with a shit script. I don't know what was going on, but it was painful at the beginning of the movie.
She was in Kingsman?
Yeah, she plays like the girl Kingsman. What's his face is like the counterpart to her, the young girl.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's in the movie. That she's also trying to be a spy.
I'm looking at her IMDb. Well,
I mean, you might have looked too fast because that's her.
Joanna Ribeiro?
No, the one that's not the tall blonde, Nora, the Leona.
Yeah, Leona. Oh, maybe that's the Leona because there's multiple people that
Right,
play
who
Leona.
play Leona. Yeah,
Oh,
the one that Mark Wahlberg hangs out with.
Oh, okay.
Nora.
She's listed as Nora in the movie.
It was very confusing.
And by the end, I thought, like, she, spoiler alert, like, bites it. Well, because they all get reincarnated. I don't think that's a big spoiler. You can expect them all to die. I thought, like, she didn't do too bad of a job. Her character was way less annoying by the end.
That's fair. I don't, because I didn't see enough of her character. I don't, because I didn't see a lot of that part of the movie. Then I think that's okay. What about you, Beck?
My most improved?
Yeah.
I think everyone pretty much
did what they were asked for.
Stayed the course.
Did what they were asked for. All right. Okay, so to me, this is the epitome of a solid Rent.
Yeah.
It's
I don't need to see it again.
It's a
And
solid
one time
Rent.
for a Friday night movie was fun.
If we had gone to the theater and seen this on a Friday night, I think we would have been thrilled. It had something for everyone. It had Marky Mark for Mom and Dad.
It's a classic Friday night movie.
It had Mantzoukas for us. It had good action sequences. It delivered on its promise, but it missed. It could have been very cool.
Is this, though, the promise of more Mantzoukas in big budget movies or in movies where we see him have like a bigger role, where he's not just like the gross guy?
Yeah. Well,
Like,
that was a great
I'd love
thing.
to see him in more of these.
I'd love to see him as
movies.
like a romantic lead too.
Well, we all want to see that, but I think in until that happens, seeing him in these big budget action movies as this type of character, I would be very
Because he brings
pleased
the funny.
with.
He was the funniest part of the movie.
He was funny, but he was great, and his character was like had well, let's not go so far as to say substance, but his character was honorable, and I liked his character. His character was cool. I would watch more movies with him in it. And definitely, I'd like to see more big budget Mantzoukas. I think in general, more big budget Mantzoukas is a lesson that we're learning here. Okay, so Rent's all around
Yeah.
solid.
Definitely.
Like I would say, it's like a solid 3-star movie as a compliment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, and let's move to Rex and shoutouts. I wanted to just, because we're talking so much about Mantzoukas, I wanted to re-recommend. We're taping this episode so closely to the last episode that I don't have anything new to recommend from last week. So I'm just going to go back and recommend Finding Favorites with Leah Jones. She's been a guest on our podcast where we talked all about Jason Mantzoukas. I've been on her podcast a couple of times. I feel like if we're talking about Mantzoukas, you should definitely be checking out, and you're enjoying that, you should definitely check out her podcast, where the whole premise of it is that she invites people on to talk about their favorite things. So you're getting a recommendation not from an algorithm, but from the passion and excitement of her guests. And I think it's one of the most awesome indie podcasts out there. So that's my big rec and shout out, or shout out and rec, Beck.
I'm going to recommend the Monopoly card game we've been playing.
Monopoly Deal.
Monopoly Deal this
It's a great
vacation.
rec.
I was very impressed.
Howie gets the I Told You show for that.
All right.
He's
Oh,
the one who
that's
told me
awesome.
about it.
I'm impressed with how Lily really came about in this last round and started using some actual strategy.
Was this the one when
I
I
still
during my
laugh.
nap?
Yeah, during her nap.
It was
She didn't.
epic.
She
It was
lost,
pretty-
but
Vlad
she had good
played a-
strategy.
Did
Played
Vlad
a
win
mo-
again?
No, wait. Vlad played a move that made everybody pay him $30 million. And I had to give him everything I had, so I was totally cleaned out. But Becky, Jose, and Mom all had the Just Say No card, so they didn't have
But
to
the
do
only
anything.
reason, to be clear, the only reason Vlad was in that position in the first place was because when he stole my Park Place complete set, I forgot to use my Just Say No card. So I sort of set us up for that one. And then I only remembered to use it the second time because he goes, Becky, he goes, Becky, do you have a Just Say No card? After I hand him all my cards, I'm like, yes, I do.
It was really worth playing with Becky just for that. That was amazing.
Becky. What about you, Lo?
So I'm gonna, since we did record this so soon close to the other one, I'm just gonna name a few things that I'm excited to see, or
Like Bosch
like
season
Bosch
7?
season 7.
We just talked about that.
I know, but I also I'm excited to finish special on Netflix. I'm excited to see the last season of Shrill.
So I was going to say, we got to watch Shrill.
Shrill on Hulu.
Oh, guys, should we all, since we're all together this summer, should we all watch the last season of Schitt's Creek?
Oof.
That was one of our plans.
That's like one of
Was
our
it a
plans.
plan?
We
that
should
was
start
specifically
it.
something
Yeah.
I think you said, Lily.
No,
Did
I said
I?
it.
Oh,
I
Becky
said
said
it.
it.
But
I
I
was
do
gonna
think we
say,
should start that. I'm so excited. I'm so
That's
scared.
huge. That's
should we
huge.
force Lily to finally watch the last episode of Parks and Rec?
Parks and Rec.
And she's
no.
never
I
seen?
don't. It's we don't. When you have kids and you're hanging out, you don't have that much time to watch extra things. So Lily can go ahead and watch that on her own time.
You know what? That's true for the rest of us. Somehow you manage to still rack it up.
Right.
Yeah. Well, no, but it's coordinating 3 schedules.
Oh yeah, you and I are only on the 3rd episode of WandaVision.
Yeah. I think that's
four months later.
I
we've
think that's
only...
WandaVision's fault, to be honest.
Yeah.
That is fair. I'm also very much looking forward to continue Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. That now that I'll be living at Shai's house, I feel like you'll watch some with me.
I will rewatch that
I'm on the
show,
3rd season
100%.
of that. So yeah, and anybody want to watch Halston with me on Netflix?
No.
Halsey?
No.
Halston?
From Charlie X?
No.
The
what
one
is-
with you and
Ewan
McGregor.
McGregor and
No,
Fashion.
Halsey's the one
McGregor.
from the Chainsmokers.
Yes. Well,
It's
she's
a terrible name. Chainsmokers?
Oh, the band?
Yeah, I don't like that name.
What can I say?
Those are a few things I'm excited about.
Those are all awesome things to be excited about. Becky, where can people follow you?
At Paper BK Princess on Twitter.
And Lily, where can people follow you?
Chichi, ChiChiK Gomez on the Twitter.
And you can follow me at pancake and the number 4 table, or all of the Friday Night Movie shenanigans on Twitter and Instagram at Friday Night Movie or FridayNightMoviePod.com. Here's a reminder, we don't do this enough. Rate, review, share,
Subscribe.
Share.
download.
Subscribe.
Any of those things are free
And
and
it's a way to
help the
support.
podcast a great amount.
Tremendously.
And if you're not into supporting us, support maybe some of these cool causes, organizations, the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, the Equal Justice Initiative, and the Asian American Journalists Association. And with that, the theme music of What Does It Eat by What Does It Eat will kick in, and we will dance our way into this lovely Pocono afternoon. Bye. Love you.
Bye.